Y'all team up with David Pearson, and y'all, win about every race you show up to. You don't run the full season. How come the Wood brothers decide, to run a part-time season, through the majority of the 70s?
Well, we just didn't have that many people in the shop, and so we just kind of enjoyed doing what we were doing, and
today, if you don't run all the races, you can't keep up.
You
right?
out to lunch.
How do you do it back then?
Well, I mean, then it was different. Nowadays cars, I mean, they just inch by a guy down the straightaway or whatever. Back then, you'd come up with something, that it would just blow by a car. I mean, and it was just a lot different racing back then.
Yeah. And when y'all, during your off time or, between races, you guys are trying to find the next trick, the next advantage, the next thing that's going to help you blow by the competition when you do show up at the racetrack again.
My late wife, Betty, used to love to shop. And so I just go to the waiting area, and then what I would do is I'd just concentrate all that time on how I was going to build something or make something better or whatever. And then once you do get the edge on somebody, you still keep getting it, because if you slow down, somebody's going to catch up with you. So you still work all the time trying to get an advantage on somebody.
Is there anything that stands out in your mind of a discovery or any kind of, a way you might have, set the geometry up on a car that was just like a light bulb went off, or it just set the car on fire and made it so much more competitive?
Well, 1962, I just got out of the Army, and back then cars pushed the front end. Well, of course, they still do, but they seemed to roll over, and they'd wear the tire out on the right outer edge. So I come up with a spindle that would gain negative camber or positive camber, in at the top. When the car go down, it'd lay in at the top.
Yeah.
Well, when the body rolled, the footprint would stay exactly flat on the pavement. As the body rolled, it pulled the tire in, but when the body rolled, it pushed it back to where it was still straight. And so at Daytona in 1963, I had that spindle on there, and the tire wear was perfectly even across the bottom, just flat across the bottom.
Yeah.
So we end up running the whole race on one set of tires.
That's amazing.
And that was a big deal because you changed the tires with a four-way back then, probably.
No, we changed it with we had the pit stop worked out starting in 61. But we didn't want to change tires because we might cross-thread something, and we wanted to keep him in the draft. This was because Tiny Lund had filled in for Marvin because Marvin was in the crash, got in that sports car.
Yeah.
And we wanted to keep him in the draft all day because they had a caution flag at 34 laps. So we run 42 laps. 42 laps. The last one only had to run 40. So we've made up all that time. Fred Lorenzen and Ned Jarrett has not made their laps up. So we knew at the last 100 miles, nothing happened. We was going to win the race if something happened.
Really?
Because they was going to have to stop.
How come the Wood brothers, why didn't everybody else figure the pit stop out? Why was...
Well, they come on to it in 1960. Fireball Roberts and Smokey Eunuch took them 45 seconds to change two tires and fill it up with fuel.
Yeah.
So this Ford engineer, John Cowley, says, I think it's a lot to be gained in the pits. So naturally, you want to impress Ford Motor Company.
Yeah.
So we just started working on it. So right away, we was 25 seconds with two tires and gas. And so then we'd make pit stops, and it looked like we was a half a lap back. We was a half a lap ahead.
Yeah.
But it didn't take them long, you know.
Everyone else.
They figured it out.
Yeah. But y'all, so you kind of, the Wood brothers get credited, though, with being the team that sort of revolutionized the pit stop. And the story is that you guys ended up going to Indy and to manage and crew a car and pit a car. And the pit stops and the efficiency is what helped y'all win that race.
Yeah, we the same guy, John Cowley, Ford Motor Company, said that Henry Ford wanted us to come up and pit the car because they'd have some problems the year before. So we go up a week ahead, and we don't know if these guys are going to accept us or not.
Exactly.
I mean, they English guys, and we walk in.
And it's open wheel.
And immediately they just rolled out the red carpet, let us take the car and prepare it for a pit stop or however we wanted to do it. So we out there working on it, and the fuel tank had a big a plate on the bottom where you unbolt it and you could crawl up in the tank. And we had a big old giant Ventura in the inside of the tank to where they sucked the fuel out. And so I'm up in the tank. My brother Ray is looking for me. And he don't know where I'm at. Well, I'm up in this tank polishing this Ventura. But anyway, the inspector come by, and he's inspecting everything. He says, how come you got that outlet so far up on the tank? See, if you got a big Ventura, the outlet center is going to be off the bottom. All the rest of them was on the bottom.
Okay. Y'all changed this?
Chapman's people built this tank for us.
Okay.
But anyway, I said, well, it's just up there. I could have cared less, what he thought. He says, I bet you $1,000 you can't pour 20 gallons a minute out of that tank. No. I'm thinking, well, we didn't bet with him. We just wanted to get through inspection. So we made a dry run after we got it all through inspection and everything. We put 58 gallons in 15 seconds.
Dang. Was that the big holdup? Was the fuel of the cars back then?
Well, see, they was doing it under pressure the year before, up till the year before. So now they're going to gravity flow. They figure we're going to be in there about a minute. And so we knew we was going to do about under 20 seconds. So I think the first one was about 17, 18 seconds.
What everybody say, what everybody up and down pit road think when that happened?
Well, the commentator, Sam Hanks, he says, says, you can bet they didn't get it full, says, a green crew and all that. He'll be back in. So he kept running. And the guy says, you said he's going to be back in. He said, well, I don't understand it. So had a runner to come down to see if we was mixing half gasoline, half alcohol, where he didn't have to put in as much.
Oh, wow.
And Chapman says, pure alcohol. So anyway, got the most publicity in the least amount of time I ever got.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So listen, okay, so you got the spindle that you're talking about. You've got this genius way to apply fuel. Where do you draw what inspires you to come up with this creativity? Where does that happen? You did mention that you would utilize time when Miss Betty was shopping. But literally, is it conversation you're having inside your shop? Where do you come up with this idea? They're so far-fetched that I can't imagine how that it would have been easy just to dream these things.
Whenever I see a problem, somehow thought this rings a bell is how to fix it. Like somebody comes up, presents me with a problem, immediately a thought comes to my head what to do to fix it.
Yeah.
It's a good Lord's blessing.
It's an amazing thing to have right there.
What do you think? How did your time in the military have an impact on you?
Well, I didn't like it.
You didn't? What made you want to join the military?
Oh, I got called in.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't. I I didn't volunteer. I couldn't wait to get out.
How long were you in there?
2 years.
Okay.
And then I got called back in 1961.
Really?
Yeah.
So wait, how many years between that?
Well, I was
First-
out 2.5 years and got called back in for 9.5 months.
What was going on? That they
It
called
was
you
a
in?
Berlin crisis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really? What'd you end up having to do while you were in the military?
Oh, I was replacing engines, major assemblies, and all that.
Working on cars, trucks.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Where
Working
were you
on
at?
Jeeps.
Where were you at?
Straubing, Germany.
Whoa, you went overseas?
Oh, yeah. Hello. Stayed over 19.5 months.
Well, that might have been all right.
No? Not really. I went to Monza, Italy, and watched the cars run over there.
Well, then you got to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
That was fun.
Yeah.
Took 8mm film of the race, and it didn't have no sound.
Yeah.
But, John Zink was a big-time front-row starter at Indy, his cars, and Jim Rathman was driving John Zink car, and I filmed it and showed him winning the race, how far he was ahead and all, and in the garage area. So A.J. Fort was over there in the pits, and but so when I get back home, we go to Indy. When was it? First race at Indy. These race fans come up and was talking to me. They was from the same town, next door neighbor to John Zink.
Uh-huh.
And I was telling them about the video, and they says, wrote me a letter and wanted to know if they could borrow that tape to make a copy. And you'd have thought you'd have given him $1 million because John Zink didn't have no recording of him winning that race. So.
Oh.
And then he got inducted in the Hall of Fame up there a little later. But, yeah, it's a great experience to be in the Army. I mean, it teaches you a lot, how to take care of yourself and all that.
Life is best lived in motion. And that's why Tire Pros gets you ready for all your driving adventures. Whether it's along corners and curves, across city and state lines. Because we're more than just tires. We're auto care too. Tire Pros, so you can focus on the road ahead.